For 10 years, Chiamaka prayed for a child, but the day she stopped crying was the day her life truly began. Chiamaka Okoye married the love of her life, the man of her dreams. She married him with so much joy in her heart and so much hope for the future. From the very beginning, she could already picture their home filled with children. She imagined a little boy with Obina's kind eyes running into his father's arms. She imagined laughter, noise, and tiny footsteps echoing through their rooms. Obinna Okoye was a gentleman. He was patient with her, patient with life, and fiercely devoted to his wife. The way he looked at Chiamaka, anyone could see she was his whole world. At first, waiting felt easy. They even had a small nursery prepared, painted softly and filled with quiet expectation. They were patient but excited. Whenever Chiamaka began to worry and ask why it had not happened yet, Obinna would gently squeeze her hands. With time, he would say softly, "It will happen." And Chiamaka believed him. 1 year passed, then another year passed, and still nothing changed. Slowly, the laughter began to fade. Family gatherings no longer felt light and easy. She would smile politely when others carried their babies, but behind that smile, her eyes carried a quiet sadness. Questions began to come, dressed as concern. Advice came, wrapped in pity. Everyone had something to say, but through every whisper and every suggestion, Obinna stood firmly beside her. Before long, hospitals began to feel like a second home. The cold corridors were no longer unfamiliar. The white walls seemed to watch her every move. The waiting hours stretched endlessly, filled with quiet fear and silent prayers. There were blood tests, there were scans, there were hormone injections that left her body tired and her heart even more weary. Each appointment arrived carrying hope, and each time she walked back to the car, that hope felt a little more fragile. Some days, as she sat alone in those sterile rooms, and sometimes when no one was watching, Chiamaka would look up at the ceiling and whisper, "God, why me?" There was IVF, then another IVF, but still, no pregnancy. Obinna tested too. He prayed too. He waited. At night, he held her while she cried. He whispered that she was enough, but the emptiness still echoed inside her. She fasted. She sowed seeds in faith, believing heaven was watching. She attended vigils that lasted until morning, kneeling long after others had gone home. She clapped when testimonies were shared. She whispered Amen when other women announced their miracles. Pastors spoke confidently of breakthroughs. They told her, "This time will be different." They assured her that her season of joy was near. And each time, she returned home hopeful, holding tightly to their words like a promise she refused to let go. But months passed, and nothing changed. A year passed, then another, then another. The nursery remained untouched. The silence in their home grew louder, until 10 years had quietly slipped by. 10 long years of prayers whispered in the dark. 10 long years of waiting for good news that never came. 10 long years of disappointment she swallowed before anyone could see it. 10 long years of pretending she was strong. One night, Chiamaka sat alone on the bedroom floor. The house was quiet. Obinna was asleep beside her, unaware of the storm rising in her chest, and she cried, not softly, not politely, but deeply, from a place she had kept hidden for years. She cried for the children she never held. She cried for the birthdays she never celebrated. She cried for the version of herself she once believed she would become. The tears fell without restraint. Years of strength dissolved in that moment. And when the crying finally stopped, something inside her shifted. It was as though a quiet truth had settled in her heart. That night, Chiamaka made a decision. She would later say it was the night she cried her last tears. She had fought this battle with everything inside her, through hospitals, through prayers, through hope that refused to die, and she realized something that felt both painful and freeing. This was one fight she could not win by force. It was now daybreak. For the first time in a long time, she walked out of the bedroom without carrying her sorrow with her. She went into the kitchen and made herself her favorite tea, the one she used to love before every decision revolved around ovulation calendars and doctor's appointments. She carried the warm cup into the living room and sat quietly, letting the steam rise gently into the still air. No prayers, no calculations, just silence. And as the morning settled gently around her, Chiamaka did something she had denied herself for years. She drew a hot bubble bath. For years she had avoided it, afraid the warmth might harm her chances, afraid it might somehow destroy the eggs she had fought so hard to protect. But this time she sank into the water without fear, and as the warmth wrapped around her, it felt like release. When she stepped out and wrapped herself in a towel, something inside her felt lighter. When she finished and dressed for the day, she walked toward the mirror. She looked at herself, not with accusation, not with disappointment, but with acceptance. And in that reflection, she did not see what the world called a barren woman, but a woman who had survived. She saw a woman who was still standing. She saw herself whole, worthy, and enough with a life still full of meaning. Obinna noticed something different about his wife. Her eyes were calm. Her voice was steady. When she told him her decision, he pulled her close. "I married you," he whispered, "not a womb." Chiamaka's heart was finally at peace. She smiled freely. She laughed without guilt. She returned to the simple things she once loved, baking in the quiet afternoons and tending to her small garden in the evenings. She played with her nieces and nephews. She loved without bitterness. And whether a miracle ever came or not, she had already reclaimed her life. Not every woman's destiny is written in childbirth. Some destinies are written in love. Some destinies are written in strength. Some destinies are written in peace. And sometimes the greatest miracle is learning to live again.